When facing challenges with multi-state examination experience verification, several strategies can be employed. Firstly, understanding the specific licensing requirements for each state is crucial. Review the particular requirements and determine if the state mandates verifiable experience from former employers. Secondly, effective communication with former employers is key. Contact them and professionally explain the importance of their experience verification for your current employment. Offer to supply additional documentation such as performance reviews or project records to support your claims. If former employers are unable or unwilling to provide letters of reference, explore alternative verification methods. One option is self-completion sworn statements. Prepare a sworn statement detailing your relevant experience and have it notarized. Another avenue is third-party verification. Reach out to colleagues or clients who can attest to your experience. You can also provide educational certificates or transcripts that demonstrate your knowledge and skills. If all other options have been exhausted, contacting the licensing board in the state where you are experiencing difficulty may provide some relief. Explain your situation and provide any supporting documentation you have gathered. The board may be able to offer guidance or consider alternative verification methods. As a last resort, consider legal action if former employers are unreasonably refusing to provide experience verification. However, this should only be considered after exploring all other possible solutions. It is advantageous to build strong relationships with former employers and supervisors to increase the likelihood of cooperation. Maintaining detailed records of your experience, including dates of employment, job descriptions, and accomplishments, is also beneficial. Be patient and persistent in your efforts to obtain experience verification, as resolving the issue may take time. When contacting former employers, it's important to be professional and respectful, even if they seem uncooperative. Clearly explain why you need their assistance and how their verification can help you achieve your licensing goals. Provide them with all the necessary forms and information to make the process as easy as possible for them. If they are still hesitant, try to understand their concerns and address them directly. Perhaps they are worried about liability or simply don't have the time or resources to complete the verification. Offer to draft the letter of reference for them based on your records and recollections and ask them to review and sign it. This can save them time and effort while ensuring that the information is accurate and complete. If a former employer is no longer in business or cannot be located, you may need to provide alternative documentation to the licensing board. This could include tax records, pay stubs, old employment contracts, or any other documents that can verify your experience. You may also be able to obtain affidavits from former colleagues, clients, or supervisors who can attest to your work history. The licensing board will typically review these documents on a case-by-case basis and determine whether they are sufficient to meet the experience requirements. In some cases, the licensing board may require you to take additional examinations or complete additional training to demonstrate your competence. This may be necessary if you are unable to obtain sufficient documentation of your experience or if your experience is in a different field than the one you are seeking licensure in. Be sure to check with the licensing board to determine what options are available to you. It's also important to be aware of the specific requirements for each state in which you are seeking licensure. Some states may have more stringent requirements than others, and some may not accept certain types of documentation. Be sure to research the requirements carefully and gather all the necessary documents before submitting your application. If you are unsure about any of the requirements, contact the licensing board for clarification. They can provide you with guidance and answer any questions you may have. Finally, if you are facing significant challenges in obtaining experience verification, consider seeking assistance from a legal professional. An attorney who specializes in professional licensing can help you understand your rights and options and can represent you in negotiations with former employers or the licensing board. They can also help you navigate the legal process if you need to file a lawsuit to compel a former employer to provide verification. Remember that obtaining professional licensure is an important step in your career, and it's worth taking the time and effort to do it right. By following these tips, you can increase your chances of success and achieve your licensing goals. When preparing a sworn statement, ensure it is detailed and accurate. Include specific dates of employment, job titles, descriptions of your duties, and quantifiable accomplishments. The more detail you provide, the more credible your statement will be. Have the statement notarized by a licensed notary public. This adds an extra layer of authentication and makes the statement legally binding. When seeking third-party verification, choose individuals who can speak to your skills and experience in a specific and meaningful way. Former colleagues, clients, or supervisors who have worked closely with you on relevant projects are ideal candidates. Ask them to provide specific examples of your work and how it contributed to the success of the project or organization. Make sure they understand the purpose of their verification and the importance of their testimony. When providing educational certificates or transcripts, ensure they are official documents from accredited institutions. If the certificates or transcripts are not in English, you may need to provide certified translations. Check with the licensing board to determine their specific requirements for educational documentation. When contacting the licensing board, be prepared to provide them with all the relevant information about your situation. Explain why you are unable to obtain experience verification from your former employers and what steps you have taken to resolve the issue. Provide them with copies of any supporting documentation you have gathered, such as sworn statements, third-party verifications, and educational certificates. Be polite and respectful in your communications with the licensing board staff. They are there to help you, and they are more likely to be cooperative if you treat them with courtesy and professionalism. If you are considering legal action, consult with an attorney who specializes in professional licensing. They can advise you on the merits of your case and the potential costs and benefits of pursuing legal action. Be aware that legal action can be time-consuming and expensive, so it should only be considered as a last resort. It is important to keep detailed records of all your communications with former employers, the licensing board, and any other relevant parties. This will help you to track your progress and to provide evidence of your efforts if necessary. Be sure to document the dates, times, and content of all conversations, emails, and letters. Keep copies of all documents you submit to the licensing board or any other organization. Remember that the burden of proof is on you to demonstrate that you meet the requirements for licensure. The more documentation you can provide, the stronger your case will be. If you are denied licensure, you may have the right to appeal the decision. The appeals process varies from state to state, so be sure to check with the licensing board for specific information about the process in your state. You may need to file a written appeal within a certain time frame and provide additional evidence to support your case. Consider seeking assistance from an attorney or other professional who is familiar with the appeals process. Obtaining professional licensure can be a challenging process, but it is important to be patient, persistent, and proactive. By following these tips, you can increase your chances of success and achieve your professional goals. When navigating multi-state licensing, understanding reciprocity agreements can be extremely helpful. Many states have reciprocity agreements with each other, allowing licensed professionals in one state to obtain a license in another state without having to retake examinations or complete additional training. Check with the licensing boards in the states you are interested in to see if they have reciprocity agreements with your current state. If so, you may be able to obtain a license simply by submitting an application and paying a fee. Even if there is no formal reciprocity agreement, some states may offer licensure by endorsement. This means that they will review your credentials and experience and determine whether they are substantially equivalent to their own requirements. If so, they may grant you a license without requiring you to retake examinations or complete additional training. To be eligible for licensure by endorsement, you will typically need to have a clean disciplinary record and meet certain minimum requirements for education and experience. Some states may also require you to pass a background check or complete a jurisprudence examination to demonstrate your knowledge of state laws and regulations. When applying for licensure in multiple states, it is important to keep track of all the different requirements and deadlines. Each state may have its own unique application forms, documentation requirements, and fees. Be sure to create a checklist for each state and keep track of your progress. You may also want to consider using a professional licensing service to help you manage the application process. These services can help you gather the necessary documents, complete the application forms, and submit them to the licensing boards. They can also track your application status and keep you informed of any updates or changes. When preparing your application, be sure to highlight your skills and experience in a way that is relevant to the specific requirements of each state. Tailor your resume and cover letter to emphasize the skills and experience that are most valued by the licensing board. Provide specific examples of your work and how it has contributed to the success of your projects or organizations. If you have any certifications or credentials that are relevant to the profession, be sure to include them in your application. These can help to demonstrate your competence and commitment to the profession. When attending interviews or meetings with the licensing board, dress professionally and be prepared to answer questions about your skills, experience, and qualifications. Be confident and articulate in your responses, and be prepared to provide specific examples to support your claims. Be honest and transparent in your communications with the licensing board. If you have made any mistakes or have any gaps in your employment history, be upfront about them and explain the circumstances. The licensing board is more likely to be understanding if you are honest and forthcoming. If you are facing any challenges in obtaining licensure, don't give up. There are many resources available to help you navigate the process. Contact the licensing board, professional organizations, or legal professionals for assistance. Be persistent and proactive in your efforts, and you will eventually achieve your licensing goals. Additionally, it's crucial to understand the nuances of each state's regulations regarding continuing education requirements. Many professions require licensed individuals to complete a certain number of continuing education hours each year or licensing period to maintain their license. The specific requirements vary from state to state, so be sure to check with the licensing board in each state where you are licensed. Some states may require you to complete continuing education courses in specific topics or formats. They may also have restrictions on the types of providers that are approved to offer continuing education courses. Be sure to choose courses that are approved by the licensing board and that meet your specific needs. Keep accurate records of your continuing education activities, including the dates, titles, and providers of the courses you have completed. You may need to submit these records to the licensing board when you renew your license. If you fail to meet the continuing education requirements, you may be subject to disciplinary action, such as fines, suspension, or revocation of your license. Therefore, it is important to stay informed of the requirements and to plan your continuing education activities accordingly. Some professional organizations offer continuing education courses and resources to their members. These can be a convenient and cost-effective way to meet your continuing education requirements. They may also offer discounts on continuing education courses or provide access to online learning platforms. Consider joining a professional organization to take advantage of these benefits. Another important aspect of multi-state licensing is maintaining professional liability insurance. Professional liability insurance protects you from financial losses if you are sued for negligence or malpractice. The amount of coverage you need will depend on the nature of your profession and the potential risks involved. Some states may require you to carry professional liability insurance as a condition of licensure. Be sure to check with the licensing board in each state where you are licensed to determine whether insurance is required and what the minimum coverage requirements are. Even if insurance is not required, it is generally a good idea to carry it to protect yourself from potential liability. Professional liability insurance can be expensive, but it is a worthwhile investment in your career. There are many different insurance providers that offer professional liability insurance. Be sure to shop around and compare quotes from different providers to find the best coverage at the best price. Consider the following scenarios and how they might impact your licensing situation. Firstly, imagine a former employer who is willing to verify your employment but is unsure of the exact dates or responsibilities. Offer to provide them with supporting documentation, such as old pay stubs, performance reviews, or project reports to help them recall the details accurately. Secondly, what if you cannot locate a former employer because the company has gone out of business or moved to a different location? Try to track down former colleagues or supervisors who can verify your employment and responsibilities. You may also be able to obtain documentation from state or federal agencies that can confirm your employment history. Thirdly, let's say that a licensing board rejects your application because they do not believe that your experience is relevant to the profession you are seeking licensure in. Gather additional documentation and evidence to demonstrate the relevance of your experience. You may also want to consider taking additional courses or training to strengthen your qualifications. Fourthly, imagine that you are facing disciplinary action from a licensing board because of a complaint filed against you by a client or patient. Seek legal counsel immediately and prepare a thorough defense. Be sure to cooperate with the licensing board's investigation and provide them with all the information they need to make a fair decision. Fifthly, you move to a new state and discover that your current license is not recognized there. Research the requirements for obtaining a license in the new state and begin the application process as soon as possible. You may be able to obtain a temporary license while your application is pending. Finally, let's say that you are accused of violating the ethical standards of your profession. Seek legal counsel and take steps to protect your reputation. Be sure to cooperate with any investigations and comply with all applicable laws and regulations. By carefully considering these scenarios and taking appropriate action, you can protect your license and your career. Be aware of the potential for changes in licensing laws and regulations. Licensing laws and regulations are constantly evolving, so it is important to stay informed of any changes that may affect your license. Check with the licensing board regularly to see if there have been any updates or amendments to the laws and regulations governing your profession. You may also want to subscribe to newsletters or online forums that provide updates on licensing issues. By staying informed of changes in the law, you can ensure that you are always in compliance with the requirements for licensure. Also, understand the importance of maintaining accurate records. Keeping accurate records is essential for multi-state licensing. You should keep copies of all your licenses, continuing education certificates, insurance policies, and other relevant documents. Store these documents in a safe and secure place where you can easily access them when needed. You may also want to consider creating a digital archive of your documents so that you can access them from anywhere. By maintaining accurate records, you can avoid potential problems and ensure that you are always in compliance with the requirements for licensure. Finally, consider seeking mentorship from experienced professionals. Mentorship can be a valuable resource for professionals who are navigating the complexities of multi-state licensing. A mentor can provide guidance, support, and advice on how to navigate the licensing process, maintain compliance with the requirements for licensure, and advance your career. Look for a mentor who has experience in your profession and who is knowledgeable about the licensing laws and regulations in the states where you are licensed. A mentor can help you avoid potential pitfalls and achieve your professional goals. In conclusion, navigating multi-state licensing requires careful planning, attention to detail, and a commitment to ongoing learning. By following these tips, you can successfully obtain and maintain your licenses and advance your career.